Research and APA Style, the University of Texas at Dallas, Naveen Jindal School of Management. Our primary reference is the American Psychological Association's publication manual of the American Psychological Association, 7th edition. At UT Dallas, we take the Comet Creed. As a Comet, I pledge honesty, integrity, and service in all that I do. Conducting quality research is an aspect of your integrity as a professional. Let's focus and think about what we want to get out of the presentation to come. So what are primary and secondary research? What counts for each one? What are the differences between popular and scholarly sources? How do you evaluate a source? How do you cite in a speech? How do you avoid plagiarism, and how do you incorporate quotes and paraphrasing into your presentations? Do you know what to do and what not to do? What are the differences between an APA and MLA in-text citation? Can you tell the difference? What are the differences between an APA reference page and an MLA works cited page? And what are the major differences between an APA reference page entry and other styles? Can you identify one? So what is primary research? This is when researchers collect data directly. It's often called field research, and the data is collected to address a specific problem. So you might conduct experiments, measure things, survey, or interview people. The researchers own the data for primary research. Secondary research uses already existing research. So they might look at published research reports, books, interviews by others, magazine articles, personal experiences or observations from experts. You can find this easily in public libraries, websites, data from completed surveys. It's often called desk research. So this is typically where most students get their information when they compile data. Why? Because they're at desks. Examples of primary sources. So these are first-hand accounts of a topic. Newspapers, magazines, photographs, audio or visual recordings, films, letters or diaries, speeches, published books, government records from the time, and oral histories. All these can be first-hand accounts of a topic. So someone who was there telling you their story is an oral history. What do secondary sources do? They will often synthesize information, summarize it, provide an overview of others' work, or review or critique, like a book review. So you would find secondary sources in your textbook, book or movie reviews, commentary, or an encyclopedia. So often your professors will tell you to use scholarly sources. What is a scholarly source? A popular source will often have a journalist as the author, whereas a scholarly source will have a researcher or scholar as the author. The primary audience for a popular source is the general public, whereas a scholarly source is intended for research and scholars in the field. Students often avoid scholarly sources because it is harder to read. They are intended for scholars, and you have to take your time reading and determining whether this applies to you. Is there advertising in popular sources? Always. Is there advertising in a scholarly source? Rarely. So if you're asking yourself, is this a popular or scholarly source, look for those ads and ask yourself, is this covering a current event? A popular source will usually cover a current event, whereas a scholarly source rarely covers one. Why? Because the peer review process takes a long time. So we often don't have current events covered in a scholarly source. What are types of credible sources? Now there's a difference between a credible source and a scholarly source. A credible source would be peer-reviewed journal articles, print or online news and magazine articles, some blogs, be careful, interviews, official public records, and books, because books are typically edited. That does not include books published directly to Kindle. Avoid opinion blogs, out-of-date websites, information where you have no or limited data about who wrote it, the authorship, or the sponsorship, who paid to put it out there, or information where the sources are not listed. So Wikipedia. Do we use Wikipedia? Well, Wikipedia can have reliability issues, and it changes because People get to edit Wikipedia. Do not use Wikipedia as a source, and double check any information you get from Wikipedia, even if it leads to other sources. Look at Wikipedia entry sources. So that's a good place to go if you like the Wikipedia information and you don't know where to go next. You can go to the See Also links, the references links, and the external links, and begin to get more information about your source. So Wikipedia might be a first place that you go, but you do not use it as a source. So even Wikipedia itself says, don't cite Wikipedia. Caution is advised when using Wikipedia as a source. In many academic institutions, references to Wikipedia, along with most encyclopedias, are unacceptable for research papers. So you may get a low grade or an F if you cite Wikipedia. Don't do it. Now, if you look at this same page, you'll notice there's a references section and an external links section. There's a See Also section as well. These are places you might go. And for any page, you always look at the last date it was edited and your own access information. So when did you edit it? And so those are highlighted here. So how do I check to see if I have a good source? Well, use the CRAP test. Start with currency. Is this current? In business school, we use the American Psychological Association, APA style, because it stresses currency or recency. Then ask yourself, is this relevant to the topic? Am I just trying to get a source, or is it actually important that I cite this information? Authority. Why does this person or this source have authority on this issue? Why should I trust them? Accuracy. Is the data accurate? Purpose. Why was this produced? Run your work through this test and ask yourself these questions for every source you use. When should I use quotations? Okay. Less than 10% of your document should be direct quotations. Why? Because we want to hear from you rather than other people. So when do you quote? When do you put something in direct quotations? When you want to provide objective background data and establish the severity of a situation. To be incredibly precise or clear, or to duplicate exact wording before you criticize that wording or phrasing. So what should I cite? Common question by students. Cite when you use the words, opinions, and assertions of others. Now remember, citing and quoting can be two different things. You always cite quotations, but you can cite other things. And you cite specific information you did not generate yourself. So, cite when you use direct quotations, arguable information that is not your opinion, or information that is not common knowledge. So if you use a source in a BCom presentation, then we expect you to cite those data-related graphics that you're probably going to throw on the screen, because this is a business school, so we expect to see numbers and graphics. We want you to cite direct quotes, and we want you to cite your statistics. Yes, you need in-text citations. So what does that mean? As you speak to us, cite your sources. Tell us where you got the information. For the references page, do you need one for your BCom presentations? Yes, you need a references page. Included at the end of the presentation, but do not show the audience during the presentation. This is often something that you'll reference at the end when someone asks you information or wants to see your references. Your professor will also check this when you submit your visual aid. So if we're going to compare, here's an easy comparison, and you can find these on the internet. So this is an easy way to look at the differences between how you cite a direct quote and how you cite a paraphrase. The questions are summarized here as far as a direct quotation and a paraphrase and the differences. If you have a direct quotation or a paraphrase, you always include the year published. But for a direct quotation, you need to have the page number if it's possible. If you're citing from a website or something else, like a podcast, you don't have a page number. For a paraphrase, you do not need that page number. In APA, the author and year are best friends. They go together. So we always want to see the year and who produced the information or the quote. For in-text citations, here's the format. That et al. Means and others. So 3 to 5 authors, first citation, you have to use all their names. After your first citation, you just use et al. And anytime you have 6 or more authors, it's just the first name alphabetically and then et al. And the year. So remember, if you are beginning the in-text citations, you'll have the last name, comma, and then the first initial in APA, period, and then the year. And you follow that up with 2 or more authors, last name, comma, first initial, last name, comma, first initial, and then the year. Popular citation styles. First, check with your instructor about what style to use. Typically in business, we use APA, but you've probably also used MLA, which is common in English, literature, foreign language, other communication classes, religious studies. There are other styles as well. Chicago, often called Turabian, IEEE, and CSE. Those are just a few. So all of these styles were developed, that I mentioned, by professional organizations, except for the Chicago Manual of Style. So why is the Chicago style sometimes called Turabian style? Trivia. Turabian style is named after the book's original author, Kate L. Turabian, who developed it for the University of Chicago. So let's be serious. Citations seem nice, but in the real world, do we actually use them? Well, if you are aware of branding, you are aware that there are rules to how you present information. So even the UT Dallas brand has specific rules about the logos, the sizing, and the visual identity. So how we approach our branding. You need to follow these rules. For example, if you work for Microsoft, you will become aware that Microsoft itself has the Microsoft Manual of Style. Follow their rules, meet their expectations. And those expectations will change with time. In 2017, Walmart changed its name from Walmart with the dash to how customers used it. So there will be change over time. What the rules are will change and shift, which is frustrating, but it's the way life is. For in-text citation, remember this is how you present everything. And now we look at quoted material. So if you're looking at that difference between, between the two, I love APA style. And then if I integrate who said it into my sentence, as Luckadoo 2013 explained, I love APA style. We always keep the author and the year together, or the person in the year, right? So what's the difference between the references pages? So you've probably used MLA before, and you might be unfamiliar with APA. Well, the references page for a research paper is going to be double-spaced for both of them. The differences lie in one, how the author names are depicted. So you would have last name, first initial for APA, last name, first name for MLA. The citation order is the same, so double-spaced, hanging indent, alphabetically. And then the in-text citation format differs because we put that page number and the year. So if you want to see the difference in practice and you are writing a paper, you might look here. As stated by Moore and McCready, the research showed there was. So here's MLA, no year. APA, here we have the year, and we have that ampersand rather than the spelled out and. APA reference emphasizes recency, right? So as Moore and McCready explained, their students have certain preferences. Page 2. If you look here, we have the year, and then the page number has that P period and the 2. So here's more of a contrast. Here's the contrast again between MLA and APA. Here is more. So to create that references page, center the word references at the top of a new page for a research paper. Double space your references for a research paper, use a hanging indent for the second and subsequent lines, and list the sources in alphabetical order by last name of the first author. Now, for a visual aid, you probably will not double space, but you will still have a references page with hopefully hanging indents and alphabetical order. If you need APA help, the Purdue OWL is helpful. That's the online writing lab at Purdue. They put a lot of effort into that, and it's a beautiful source. And citation machines themselves can be useful. So there are citation machines like NightCite, produced by the Calvin University, I believe, that are incredibly helpful. But again, for visual aid references, you do not need to double space it. So the APA references page. The first secret to this is figuring out what type of source you have, and then that'll dictate the details. So usually we have the author name, the date, the title of the document, and then if it's from, you retrieved it from online, which I'm guessing many of you will, you would have that URL. So here's an example. Here's an example APA references page. Now, if I use several pages on a website, do I have to cite each page? This is a question students ask all the time, and the answer is yes. So here's an example from the APA Style blog. So follow that example. How do you cite memes? Well, you would have the title of the meme, the title of the website where the meme was published, the URL, the date you accessed, and the publisher. Now, this sounds complex, so I created a meme. Here we go. Cite you must. And there we go. I named it Cite You Must. It's on ImageFlip. There's my name. There's the date. Uh-oh, I don't have retrieved from, but I have the other information. How do you cite YouTube videos? You get the name of the people who uploaded it, or the person, the screen name, the date, the title, the date you accessed it, so the date you actually saw it or, looked at it for the first time and pulled it into your presentation, and the URL. So there's our information. If I don't know how to cite something, what do? Do you just not cite it? No. Look it up. How do you cite a podcast? Can you use a podcast? Well, sure. That's a great idea. If someone's an expert in the field, use their podcast. Cite it. Look it up. Let's say you want to use Reddit. Now, I'm not usually a fan of Reddit, but if you want to show that there's a lot of interest in Reddit on a particular topic that you're going to discuss in your presentation or your paper, then maybe you will want to cite posts. Well, you can look that up too. So all of this is available and you can figure it out. We expect you to handle your work like a professional and ask yourself, if you really want to publish from Reddit, do the crap test. Why is this pertinent? Why should I care? So for the test questions, come back to your focus, as always, and ask yourself what you've learned and whether you've answered these questions. Can you identify the differences when you're asked to identify differences? Do you know what to cite and how to cite it? Think about it, look around, ask more questions if you need to, and get ready because this is something that's expected in the business school. Now, how do you search for information online? It's time for a glorious online tour of the library website. So go on over there, take a look. Most of our sources can be accessed using desk research, so you can look at those databases. And one of the great things is most of those databases and the articles and journals that are referenced there, they will actually create your APA in-text citation for you. So you will have it in a format that you can use and put at the end of your presentation from the very beginning. Thank you for listening. You're going to do great. This is not scary. This is about following the rules and being the kind of person who demonstrates integrity in their work and life choices.